Hey y'all, this is Marla K. Hope everybody is well. I got a topic that I want to talk about because I did some research just because everybody's talking about this 3 days of darkness. And there are not a whole lot of specific references about the number of days of darkness in the Bible. Now, I'm not sure about the Apocrypha, so if anybody wants to come, correct me in the comments about that. I'm totally fine with it. This is not a combative issue, but what I wanted to talk about is the fact that as we approach the date for this solar eclipse to happen, there are a lot of people talking about 3 days of darkness. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Why is it, I know there was darkness that came across the land when the Israelites were being led out of Egypt, before the captivity ended the first time. So I'm sure there's going to be some symbolism or something is going to happen in the way of a physical darkness coming upon the land that's cursed or that will be judged or that will receive the wrath before the children of Israel are released again. So I just I don't know. I feel like, and I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on, that there's something sinister about the sudden discussions of 3 days of darkness. You need to have 3 days of food prepared and water be fueled up, so on and so forth. And so I don't know if this leading up to the eclipse or after the eclipse or whatever. But the number three, associated with darkness, and that you need to prepare for 3 days, and that the children of the corn are telling you to do this, to me, is suspect. And I don't know why this fell into my spirit, but just take it with a grain of salt and hear me out. So I just started doing some research. I looked at some biblical scriptures and I only found like one or two references where it was like referring to like the 3 days of darkness. And yes, it was around the time of, I want to say maybe the Passover. So I'm not sure. Anyway, I have the scriptures pulled up, but what I wanted to talk about as we lead up to this mark of the beast, um, time coming, this transition of the system, the old dying so the new system can come online. Just a lot of things that are strange happening. So I read this article this morning and I cannot find it for the life of me again, but it was in USA Today and it was the only article telling people to go outside and look up at the sky at the eclipse. Now, all the other years, all the other times I've been on this earth, they always tell you not to look up at the sky unless you have the special glasses. You should stay indoors. You shouldn't do blah, blah, blah. And now this is not a whole day eclipse. It's not like the whole earth gonna shut down or nothing. This just like a few minutes the earth is gonna get dark and then it's gonna be light again. Just like it always does when we have solar eclipses. But this time, for this particular article, it said go outside and look up. So I was like, why would they tell us to do this now after all this time? So that made me suspicious too. Um, After doing all this research. So I honestly believe that I just don't have a good feeling about what's coming. I believe that they're going to, them folks, children of the corn. Y'all know who we talking about if you follow me on this channel. If you're new, I know I have some new subscribers. So the children of the corn are the people that we can't talk about, the new Khazarians, the people who have stolen our identity, the people from, um, let's say, the Anglo-Saxon people who are always doing stuff to us, African American Black people, and the Israelites scattered all over, the people who control the world, the dominant society. So all those people together are the children of the corn. and the folks that also help them, who are not uh, those people, but from other nations, because there are other nations that are in confederacy, conspiring to help keep the truth hidden and to persecute us, if not wipe us out completely. So, as these times occur, we have to be wise as serpents, because we are going to be deceived. There are going to be all types of strong delusions everywhere. And I think this 3 days of darkness is one of them, because it mostly sprang up from the Catholic Church, even though there was one incident, if I'm not mistaken, maybe two mentions of 3 days of darkness. But I'm going to show you the scriptures uh, that refer to those, and a lot, I type in 3 days of darkness. There are hardly any references. There are like literally no references of a specific 3 days of darkness. Like, so I just don't know where it came from. Um, being associated with this particular eclipse, but it makes me think that they're going to pull some shenanigans. And for 3 days, we won't have power, we won't have lights, it will be dark, there will be no food. If they're putting stuff in the sky to make the sun not shine, and the moon and the stars not be able to come through the clouds, then that could be extremely problematic. We don't know what the adversary has planned, but I do believe that the adversary has something planned, which is why they're talking about 3 days of darkness. Prepare food for 3 days. There's going to be a lot of traffic. You need to stay home. Schools are closing. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places where this eclipse is supposed to pass. So I don't know. I'm just really suspicious. But anyway, let me read you this article that I found on. It's an opinion. It's not an article. It's an opinion on the 3 days of darkness. And the reason that I'm reading this to you is because when I started doing the study for 3 days of darkness, I found that it came from, guess who? The Catholic Church. So y'all already know what time it is when we talk about the Catholic Church. And this is why I really became suspicious. So listen to this thought. It was published on February 24th, 2024. And this person is an instructor in their Arab. So of course they have a counter, or a vested interest in um, countering this 3 days of darkness. But what I found was that it was pretty much the same thing that I found. Like, the 3 days of darkness is part of something that came out of Catholicism, and it's a part of mysticism. So the way that they're telling it. So let me just read this to you, so I won't confuse you anymore. So it says the 3 days of darkness is a prophecy that has captivated the imagination of many throughout history. It is an eschatological prophecy of future events held by some Catholic circles to be true. And so y'all know that Christianity sprung out of Catholicism, or Catholicism. Yeah, Christianity, and I guess sprung out of Catholicism, because the Catholic Church created Christianity and forced a lot of African American people to convert. But Catholicism still controls much of what is taught in Christianity. So I'm finding that a lot of Christians are talking about the 3 days of darkness. And so I kept talking. They were talking about it, and I keep thinking, why are these Christians talking about 3 days of darkness? Let me go look for myself. And so I didn't really find anything. And then I was just like, you know what? This might not be a good thing for us to be repeating this, because it could come out of it could be one of the deceptions that we're called to beware of. So I just wanted to mention it so that we can keep this in the forefront of our minds, that some of this stuff may not be true. So it says the prophecy foretells 3 days and nights of an intense darkness over the whole earth, against which the only light will come from blessed beeswax candles, and during which all the enemies of the church will perish. So if you think about what they have planned with the do energy weapons, with HARP, with the cloud seeding, keep trying to keep the sun out, and just all the things that are happening. They have extra suns, they got extra moons, the solar flares. They're telling us we won't have communications. The grid can go out, so we won't have power. You won't have utilities. You won't have water. So it really just makes me wonder if this 3 days of darkness story that comes out of the Catholic Church has been a seed planted throughout the earth, because y'all know the Catholic Church is everywhere on every continent. If that was planted for this time right now, for whenever they get ready to pull the trigger and the adversary can do whatever they want to do and cause us to perish, is this one of those things? So we, it's, for me, it's a real question, and so I'm concerned, which is why I'm sharing it with y'all on my channel. You can, like, again, take it with a grain of salt, but it's just something that I'm thinking about. So it says the prophecy parallels the 10 plagues against Egypt in the book of Exodus. And so it gives you the scriptures, Exodus 10:21-29. And the apocalypse of John, that also mentions a plague of unnatural darkness as an effect of the sixth seal, which is Revelation 6:12. And I will include this opinion in the description so that you can go through and verify the scriptures and do precept upon precept to verify. And then it says in the fifth vial, Revelation 16:10, although specifics of the 3 days of darkness prophecy are derived from private revelations. So that means allegedly God talked to the Catholics and told them about the 3 days of darkness. And then they told us. And so now it's law. So now they're spreading it like wildfire. Although, again, as you can see, there are no real references about 3 days of darkness in future prophecy anywhere. So the fact that they're saying it so frequently and putting it out all over the internet and all over everywhere, people are making videos about 3 days of darkness, la la la. We don't really know if there's going to be a 3 days of darkness, because prophecy didn't necessarily talk about it, at least not in the Bible. And again, I'm not done with my apocrypha, and the way that I read it a little differently. So again, if you have found an apocrypha where there are going to be 3 days of darkness, please let me know. Give me the scripture, or scriptures in the books, and I will post them in the description as well. And I'll come back and also do a follow-up video to share what I've read afterwards. But thus far, I have not found anything in the Bible that correlates to a 3 days of darkness in future prophecy. So it says, some advocates of the 3 days of darkness have claimed that Saint Pio of Pietrelcina, which was from 1887 through 1968, I guess it's whoever this person is, known as Padre Pio, Italian for Father Pius, predicted it will happen in March 2024. Prepare yourselves. So it says, however, the quotation was given with no traceable source, and the Capuchin order that he belonged to has denied that he ever made such a prediction. So I don't know what this Capuchin order is, but he was a Catholic priest, I guess, because they called him Father. So I don't know. But there's a link to this story about one about the 3 days of darkness. It says this also appears to be a case of someone trying to lend the prediction credibility by associating it with a popular modern saint. So these are people that the Catholic Church made saints. One of the most famous quotations about this event is attributed to the Italian mystic I don't know what this BL, Anna Maria Taigi, 1768 to 1837, of Siena, born Anna Marie Giannetti, a professed member from the secular Trinitarians. Don't know who those people are. But her prophecy is, quote, there shall come over the earth an intense darkness lasting 3 days and 3 nights. Nothing can be seen, and all the air will be laden with pestilence, which will claim mainly not only the enemies of religion. It will be impossible to use any man-made lighting during this darkness except blessed candles. He who out of curiosity opens his window to look or leaves his home will fall dead on the spot. During these 3 days, people should remain in their homes, pray the rosary, and beg God for mercy. All the enemies of the church, whether known or unknown, will perish over the whole earth during the universal darkness, with the exception of a few whom God will soon convert. The air shall be infected by demons who will appear under all sorts of hideous forms. Now, I believe this is going to happen because it's too much like what is going to actually happen during the second Exodus. So I believe that the harp is going to do something or has already done something where we are going to see all sorts of hideous beings that we've never seen before that come out of a different realm. I believe they're opening up portals. I believe that. Um when they talk about the small few God will soon convert, I believe those are the Israelites. I do not believe. I believe that there's not going to be a whole bunch of people spared. I don't know if this is going to happen during this time, but the fact that this person attributes this to 3 days of darkness and this is going to happen, we don't know because these people come out of the Catholic Church and because they come from a certain period, like around the period when we were in captivity, like not long after during the transatlantic slave trade. I question all of these accounts because even if you go back up to when this other guy 1887, that's not long after, the Emancipation Proclamation. This person was born 1768 through 1837. That's during the transatlantic slave trade. So, you got to put all this stuff into context and think about who knew what, who knew who we were. People know things that we, African American Black people, so-called Black people, scattered Israelites don't know. So I just question a lot of these accounts. So it says the Bible does not contain a prediction of 3 days of darkness, which is kind of what I figured. Excuse the noise. Y'all know I got my window open. However, God could still reveal it through credible private revelations. And it is here that we run into a problem. The great Catholic monarch and angelic pontiff prophecies, which supports the 3 days of darkness, acknowledges that it was not mentioned until 1863 or 1864, 26 or 27 years after Taiji's death. One should therefore not place much confidence in any alleged verbatim quotations attributed to Taiji, especially lengthy ones in the absence of verifiable documents written during her life. So here it says another mystic and stigmatist Marquis de la Francoirie, Francoirie, or Marie Julie Jahini from 1850 through 1941, that was her life, of La Fraudes. I don't know. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing these names. Is said to have revealed that the crisis will explode suddenly, the punishments will be shared by all, and will succeed one another without interruption. Well, if you read the Bible, it tells you that. So, of course, you could say, like, they're not saying anything that hadn't already been prophesied. So it says 3 days of darkness will be on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, days of the most holy sacrament of the cross and Our Lady. 3 days less one night. So they're taking the um, Sabbath and like the feast days, like one of the high holy feast days, and just saying it's going to be on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday when it would just, you know what I'm saying? So, or if you follow the moon and you know like certain events for Israelites or Hebrews were supposed to happen during a certain time. It's almost like they pull that and say this is going to happen then. So like they don't really give you anything new. They give you the same old same old. I'm not saying that that can't happen, but it's just because we know the history of the Catholic Church taking stuff from the Torah and switching it around, or taking stuff from scripture and then claiming it when somebody wrote it. You know, Hebrews, Israelites wrote it thousands of years ago, and they just take it and cherry pick it and be like, oh, I said this. So anyway, it says that the earth will be covered in darkness, says Our Lady, on 20th of September 1882, and hell will be loosed on earth. Thunder and lightning will cause those who have no faith or trust in my power to die of fear. During these 3 days of terrifying darkness, no windows must be open, because no one will be able to see the earth in terrible color it will have in those days of punishment without dying at once. So they're basically saying the pestilences and plagues of Egypt are coming back. And, you know, people are going to die if you don't do these certain things. No one outside a shelter will survive. The earth will shake as at the judgment, and fear will be great. Yes, we will listen to the prayers of your friends, not one will perish. We will need them to publish the glory of the cross. And this was from 1882. But it's still basically, you know, taking events that are taken from Exodus. You can't say these things are going to happen again. And maybe they know these things are going to happen again. I don't know. Maybe they'll happen again because the adversary got a plan to make it appear that these things are going to happen again. Maybe God is going to make them happen again. I don't know. But what I do know is there is no second discussion of 3 days of darkness. The candles of blessed wax alone will give light during those horrible darknesses. Not only one candle alone will be enough for a duration of this night of hell. In the homes of the wicked and blasphemers, these candles will give no light. And Our Lady states, so yes, right, you already know this rest of this is canceled because ain't no lady said nothing. Everything will shake except the piece of furniture on which the blessed candle is burning. This will not shake. You will all gather around the crucifix and my blessed picture. This is what will keep away the terror. Oh, child, honey, honey, honey. We know this ain't right. During this darkness, the devils and the wicked will take on the most hideous shapes. Red clouds like blood will move across the sky. The crash of thunder will shake the earth, and sinister lightning will streak the heavens out of season. The earth will be shaken to its foundations. The sea will rise. Its roaring waves will spread over the continent. What continent doesn't say. Now, this particular quote struck me, one, because the adversary has given man the ability to change the colors of the sky. They can create aliens and monsters. Uh, think about Atlanta, and I'm not saying that there aren't beings already here, but I'm just saying they have the ability to create these things. They have this. They have the ability to create thunder and lightning and make sounds. What they call the some type of sound of God machine or something that is already in existence that can make noises so loud that it makes you believe that God is present. But what you will have to remember is that just because you hear it, if your spirit doesn't quake and Yah isn't talking to you directly, you're going to have to be strong enough to resist whatever shenanigans they come up with. Then it says the earth is going to quake. Well, we know they have machines that can make the earth do stuff, but the earth is doing stuff anyway without them even doing nothing. So I do believe the earth is going to quake, but all this other stuff that they have the ability to do while these things are happening, they can make it happen. The sea will rise, and the sea is rising now as we speak. They keep talking about these the East Coast is sinking. So and if there's a huge earthquake or yes, earthquake in the Ring of Fire, the water is going to come in. You're going to have a huge tsunami. So waters will come over continents, but like this isn't really specific about what continent, or is it all continents? I don't know. Anyway, the earth will become like a vast cemetery. The bodies of the wicked and the just will cover the ground. So, you know, if they have planned something and they're planning on doing it during this time, or even if they know that the poles are shifted and this type of event is is possible for this type of event to happen during this time, then this may be where these people are getting it from. But because they're associated with the Catholic Church, they could be Jesuits, they could be uh, associates with the Pope and told to say these things, like the Pope of back then. We don't know. We don't know anything about these people, but we have to question everything now, especially when it comes out of the mouth of the children of the corn. 3/4 of the population of the globe will disappear. Half the population of France will be destroyed. So again, this is nothing different than what's in Revelation and Isaiah, and like 2/3 of the people on the earth are not going to make it. Is this that time? We don't know. Only Yah knows when this time is coming. But the fact that they are saying it and associating it with 3 days of darkness is questionable, especially now since we know they have this depopulation agenda. And so, again, we don't know. How do you know so many millions of people are going to die? How do you know that only 30 million people are going to live by 2025? Like, how do you know? Like, so I don't know. Are you going to release some pestilences and plagues on us? And I don't know. We don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. So the prophetess Sister Mary of St. Peter, 1816 to 1848, a discalced Carmelite nun who lived in Tours, is mentioned in her revelations to have revealed a warning will come immediately before the 3 days of darkness chastisement. The church has nothing to say about it. Senora Elena Aiello, 1895 through 1961, of Calabria adds clouds with lightning rays of fire and a tempest fire. A tempest of fire will pass over the whole world, and the punishment will be the most terrible ever known in the history of mankind. It will last 70 hours. Ironically, a search of Vatican references reveals no occurrence of the phrase 3 days of darkness. The 3 days of darkness is not a matter of church teaching. As vivid and compelling as the prediction of 3 days of darkness is, it would not be recommended to be terrified of it, or that they invested in it with credence, given the present state of the evidence. So this person says it's food for thought. So I just found it interesting that somebody else was thinking along the lines of me, like, wait a minute, where does 3 days of darkness come from? So I went to Open Bible and I did a search for 3 days of darkness. And so any scripture that had darkness or three in it, it would come up. It was hardly nothing. So, and I'll put a link to this also. So, like in Revelation, and I'll just give you an example. So, Exodus 10:22, it says, "So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was a pitch darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days." So, if you want to talk about 3 days, like here is where, like, one example of 3 days of darkness. But it was associated, and I'm not saying that it can't happen, but the fact that these people are talking about it, it was mentioned in Exodus, but not really any place else after. So, like in Revelation, it says, "The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light might be darkened, and a third of the day might be kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night." So I guess that could be considered 3 days of darkness. I don't know. It could be. Um, Exodus 10:20-21. It says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness to be felt." Um, Revelation 16:10. "The fifth angel poured out his bowl on the throne of the beast, and his kingdom was plunged into darkness. People gnawed their tongues in anguish." John 8:12. "Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Hebrews 9:27. "And just as it is appointed for a man to die once, after that judgment comes." Let's see. Matthew 24:29. This would be the New Testament. So it says, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." But it doesn't say a number of days. Mark 15:33, it says, "And when the 6th hour had come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour." So I don't know if it's 3 hours or 3 days, because I don't know. So if somebody again wants to, this is not my area of expertise. I'm just concerned that this 3 days of darkness is coming out now, but it seems to be coming from the Catholic Church. And not saying that it can't be true. Let me clarify, because they have knowledge that we don't have. They removed books and burned stuff and destroyed things that would let us know about the times that we were living in, about the times, about the end times. They have knowledge that we don't have. So it's highly possible they could know something is coming, which is why they are talking about these 3 days. They want you to go outside and look. Maybe they want you to go outside and look because they want you to be killed. They want you to be destroyed. If pestilences and things are going to be um, uh, unleashed upon the land that's judged, then they want you to get some. So I don't know. But anyway, y'all leave me y'all's feedback. I'm just uh, thinking aloud here. But anyway, this is some food for thought. Share your thoughts in the comment sections, and I promise I will do a follow-up video on the comments. All right, y'all, this is Marley K, and I'm out.